You got problems that you ought to be concerned with. Moolah. You don't know how you're supposed to earn it, or what to do with it, or how to keep it. You're a freak with a dark, shameful secret. But you're not the only one. Get your hidden financial fears with a blast of sun. Now your healing has begun. It's Bad with Money with
Gabe S.
Done.
Hello and welcome to Bad with Money, a show about finances and feelings where we don't talk down to you. I'm your host, Gabe S. Dunn. And with me today is somebody who I cannot get over how she makes things and how real they look and how you can just like see that it is a shower, but you also see that it's an elevator. Caroline, do you want to tell my audience who you are and what you do?
I'm Caroline Klidonas. I'm an actor, writer, and content creator over the past couple of years, in which I make kind of parody videos that, like, I don't even know if they're parody anymore, about popular TV, film, tropes, and genres, using kind of whatever I have around my house, which is where the shower becomes the elevator, comes into play.
Yes. Okay. So how did you start posting stuff? Like, what was because as an actor, I think there's this line sometimes of, I got to be serious and go for these like auditions. But then there's also this thing of like, let's put content out. So like, what was the first thing you posted? And like, why were you like, I'm going to post this?
Well, it was during the pandemic when TikTok was really taking off. And honestly, the first thing I posted was this weird skit with my vibrators. There was like
That's
trending.
so early pandemic of like we've all lost our minds.
There was like, and it never made it to Instagram, but it was there was a trending audio that was like, bored in the house and I'm in the house bored. And like my vibrators were just kind of like looking at each other like, should we kiss? I've come a long way since then. Anyway, so yeah, but then I do remember the first like video that's done in the style of what I do now, which was I did the trope label was like alt teens in a coming of age movie, I think, or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I just was out, my previous apartment had like a little patio, and I was just out there in the 98-degree heat and like a leather jacket filming this scene that came to mind. And it took me so long because I didn't even understand eye lines yet. Like I didn't know like how to make the characters look at each other. And I edited it in iMovie, and I had the most fun I'd had in maybe since like the first time I did theater in high school. You know, it was like that big of a moment of like, oh, this is so fun. And I posted it. And so that one did well enough that I would do like a part 2, part 3. And that's where I started to introduce this kind of like serialized parody content where I'm playing all the characters, I'm doing different genres. But there was no strategy behind it. Like it was not a conscious choice of, oh, well, I'm an actor and I now have time on my hands. Like, why don't I show what I can do and like make my own stuff? It just was like this idea that I had, and I had a good time doing it. And so then I kept doing it.
I think we're in a really cool moment where I started on YouTube, and it was so interesting because I didn't really understand it, where people would be like, oh my God, you should be an actor, because it's like I was doing these sketches, right? And it's like, I was like, oh, maybe. But then at the time I look back, I'm like, you were acting. And so even the audience too would say, oh, that you should like act, because I don't think they realized that people on YouTube were also trying to do Hollywood in that way. And like now I see the comments on yours, which are more so leaning towards, oh, you're such a good actor. Like they seem to realize that this is like an acting showcase in a different way. And do you feel like that? Do you feel that? Do you feel like, oh, okay, these people are seeing me as like, wow, this person's a really good actor?
I feel like I get both. And maybe it's just taken some time. And also I've got better in my content, but definitely I still get comments. And for a long time, people are like, you should be an actor. Like, wow, you're actually really good at this. Like,
you're actually really good. Jesus Christ.
Like I have a degree in it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Not that means anything, but like, or like means if you can or can't do it. But like, I've been doing it for 15 years, you know what I mean? But there is this accessibility about content on the internet that people assume like, oh, someone just hopped on here and just like randomly. And in some ways that's true. But like the acting side, I've been doing for a long time. But yeah, I think now as people have gotten to know me more as a creator and seen, they know that I have a background in acting. But the comments that are always so interesting to me are people, which are so kind and I love them, but they're like, oh my gosh, you've got to be on Netflix. Like, we've got to get you, and it's so interesting to me, like this idea we have that like, oh, that would be more fulfilling. Like that's a more fulfilling way to do this. And I know that they're celebrating me and saying that, and they're wanting, like they're dreaming for me, which is amazing. But I have come to the realization over the last couple of years that I'm like, I don't know that would be a more fulfilling way for me personally to be doing it. Like I really enjoy the way that I've found the opportunity to do this on my own terms. And yeah, so it's kind of, I'm always kind of like checking in with myself with this, because sometimes it can be a trap that we fall into. I think definitely fueled by capitalism too, of like, oh, I have so much fun doing this creative thing, but like I need to take it to the biggest level that exists within our kind of...
It's a mistake.
Yeah. So...
No, I often see that as a mistake, because how would that even work? Like you would be getting network notes. You would be having to write and rewrite. They would want you to have like a cast instead of like you playing, yourself, like you doing the characters, unless like, what was the last? I mean, I don't know. I guess like sort of a Mad TV, like you're doing all the. I don't really know. Like, I think about, oh my God, what's her name? Mackenzie Barman and the 60 somethings series where she's playing all the characters, and people are like, this has to be a show. And I'm like, explain to me how this would be a show. And also, this is a show. You're watching a show.
Yes, thank you. That's what I'm like, but it already exists. Like I'm doing it. It doesn't need to be with some fancy streamer name on it for it to be legit. Like I'm doing it. And again, I'm not at all offended by these comments. Like this is just the conversation we're having. Like they're so kind. But yeah, it's really, wait, there was something you said about, oh, and then you're like, how would that even exist? Because that process, you're right, is so vastly different from what I'm doing. Like it's almost, being an actor in that way is a completely different job than what I'm doing. And I'm grateful that I had experience. I was a writer's assistant when I started doing content. And so I have experience in writers' rooms. And I'm like seeing the notes, endless notes. I mean,
and they're not good notes.
They're not good notes. I was just gonna say I have just so much respect and compassion for TV writers, like after sitting in one of those rooms, because, oh my God.
Yeah, I think it's...
And
I do, yeah. I think this thing of wanting to scale up in a way, you're right, that doesn't make any sense. I keep thinking of the Freckle quote, sometimes things that are expensive are worse. Oh, let's add all this money to it. Let's add all this whatever to it. And I've started realizing in my life and in my creative path that like that it doesn't make something better, and it doesn't matter. And like, it's very interesting, right? Like what you would do the medical drama and they would give you an actual stethoscope. Like, who cares? Part of it is the joy of seeing what you've come up with, which like, can you explain that a little bit if like someone hasn't seen? Oh,
yes. I use like for the most part, whatever props I just have lying around. So for example, if I have a medical drama, I don't purchase a stethoscope. I'll just use like sometimes I've used a hairdryer. Once I used a frying pan around my neck. I just put it around my neck.
And it's great because it disappears into the content. Like you get it. Yeah. You get what it is.
You get it.
But then part of the joy is being like, she spent no money on this.
Yeah. Which has been an interesting conversation as I've tried to expand onto YouTube, which I feel like you and I talked about this briefly, because I really am interested in doing more long form. But then it's the same question we're talking about, because, there's such a difference between shooting vertically versus horizontally for YouTube. And you see so much more visually, and like trying to find that balance of still honoring my original content with using what I've got, doing it scrappy. The audience likes to see like what I come up with, but then also you have to be able to kind of compete visually on this medium. It's been a really interesting creative challenge. But yeah, I agree that more money doesn't necessarily make it better. Sometimes the medium becomes irrelevant when you add more money to it,
Yeah.
that you originally started in?
I'm sure you guys know that I don't wake up at 4 a.m. unless I'm going to work out. Okay, that was only a couple times, and it was because the boxing class was at 6. I wake up, I have my coffee, I'm rushing out the door. I need something that's going to keep me nourished all day. I have to go right to work, whether it's riding the bus to my job and doing work on my phone, getting to my job and being on my feet all day. No matter what our days look like, we need nourishment that fuels us. Kachava's whole body meal shakes will keep your body and mind nourished all day. So when I first tried Kachava, I was overwhelmed by how tasty and adorable it was. First of all, the packaging is immaculate. There were so many flavors. I loved the chai one that they gave and also the chocolate. Kachava is 25 grams of plant protein, 26 vitamins and minerals, 6 grams of fiber, 85 plus superfoods, nutrients, plant-based ingredients, super delicious. I also put peanut butter. Sometimes I put frozen fruit. It helps you stay satiated for hours. It's like a really convenient little breakfast thing you can bring with you. Try Kachava risk-free with their Love It guarantee. Thousands of rave reviews agree you're gonna love it. Fuel your day with Kachava. Go to kachava.com and use code BADMONEY for 15% off your next order. That's Kachava, KACHAVA.com, code BADMONEY for 15% off.
I love people that use stock backgrounds that are we're doctors, but the background is just a background that they found on Google Images.
And it still has the watermarks on it.
Oh, the watermarks are the best. There's bits to the genre that are part of the genre. And I just don't think a network can replicate something like that. It's a really wonderful testament to the imagination that you don't need $1 billion to make it look like you're in a race car. You can slap a race car on the back and hold a pan, and that's a wheel. It's scrappy in a way that I almost think it's early filmmaker stuff. It's like Robert Rodriguez shooting El Mariachi. It's you're and also it's trusting the audience, which I saw one of my favorite movies of the last couple years is called The People's Joker. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Mm-mm.
It's by Vera Drew. It's amazing.
Oh, you were telling me about this.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
And she literally just oh, this is too expensive to film live action. Now it's a cartoon. The switches to the action sequences and it's stop motion with action figures. Incredible. We got it. If you asked me about that movie, I would be yeah, it changes. But I would also be well, it was the storyline went through. I understood I understood that the cartoons were the same characters. I understood that the the background that was kind of a fake comedy club. I got that it was a comedy club. It didn't take away from the story, which is silly, but not really. It's about a narcissistic mother, and it was very moving. And so it's kind of this thing where as long as you're conveying the emotion, you don't need to spend probably anything.
Yeah.
And for you, to me, it's mostly about the writing and
Thank you.
the ability to see pop culture stuff. And also it's just well written. It kind of exposes how tropey everything, how easy. There was a time where I really wanted to write a two-hander procedural like Castle or Bones. And so I wrote one as just a sample. And it's very easy. If you don't want to reinvent the wheel, it's pretty easy. And I think people how do you, are you just a pop culture fanatic? And then it's so funny for people. It's almost like that gif of Jean Parmesan of Lucille Bluth being ah, because they're she did, are you just kind of an observer of pop culture?
Because when I think about it, I'm I don't really even watch that much.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you can see, if you really look at my content, you'll see the holes in things that I don't consume. For example, I rarely do horror because I don't watch that genre very much.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I did do a whole found footage horror movie on my YouTube that was I almost had a breakdown.
How long is that?
I think it's like 10 to 12 minutes.
That's a short, like that's like you're making that for nothing. It's in the editing, it's in the writing.
It was so hard to do alone because found footage is, it's so like
shaky.
Handing off the camera between characters, but not having a cut. It was so hard to figure out, but so rewarding and did not do well. But anyway, it was really fun to do. I think it's less about what I'm watching, and I'm always doing the things that I love. Grey's Anatomy was like formative for me those early seasons as an actor. I was like a teenager and I was just like, oh my God, I love this so much. So like that's where the medical drama came from. And then of course there's new medical dramas coming out all the time. So like now people are relating it to The Pitt and, which I've seen some of The Pitt. And I love the fantasy genre. I love a rom-com. Like I was a huge New Girl fan. So like I love a Friends to Lovers. So more so I'm just doing the tropes from the genres that I really love as a watcher and also an actor. Yeah.
And so you don't have to audition. You get to like be all the parts. And now in my mind, I'm thinking about that you get to play the male roles, which are sometimes written more fulfillingly.
Yes. I have to like check myself. Sometimes I notice that when I write scenes, I write the male characters as so charming and the women as like kind of just a bouncing off their charm. And it's something that I've like recently noticed. And I do that. I mean, part of that is because I'm trying to capture like a certain tone and genre. But I also just noticed, I'm like, well, why am I not writing them as like both like equally charming, and I love playing the male roles like so much. It has really opened up a lot for me, even just my own relationship to like my own gender expression and my queer identity and all of that. It really is eye-opening though, where you see that like we have so much more grace for male characters and like they can be fuck ups. And I'm not saying anything new. This has been in the conversation for forever, but
no, yeah, but it's just funny that you're playing both.
Yes. And I'm still seeing it in my own, like, anyway, but yeah, I love playing them so much.
Yeah. That was like one of the first things where I saw people being like, oh, and they're all like, it's like the more mean your male character is, the more people are like, hell yeah.
Yes. Just like, I mean, Bartender is giving nothing. And I think you said this to me when you were like, your comment section's really thirsty.
Extremely thirsty for the mean bartender.
Oh, yeah. Which I get it. I mean, listen, I am watching takes and being like, oh, that's hot. Like, I know what I'm doing. And it's a performance. Like, it takes me 87 takes to get that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I am absolutely performing a certain genre of masculinity that I have observed in the world. And it is that. It is a performance. Everything down to how I hold a glass. You know what I mean? Like
the handshake, the
yes,
change of tone when you see your friend.
Yes. Which in all of that, it just is like, yeah, gender is as performance, it's like I live that when I do a sketch.
Yeah, it's performance. I think it's like funny to pick up on the subtleties of how like a guy would hold himself versus how like a woman would hold herself, what type of person. It's so interesting as someone who came up in this world where you had to scale up and you had to get other people to do stuff and you had to, and like to just be like, oh, I can act opposite myself and make sure the chemistry is there. Like, how did you do the thing with the handoff in the horror movie?
Either the camera was jostly enough that I could make the cut. You can't quite see it unless you're like really. One character would set the camera down and it would just be at something with the lighting wouldn't change. And I would just walk out of frame, sometimes walk out of my front door and then come back in the back door and change characters and then enter and like pick it up and then just trim that dead space because the light didn't change. So that was really, and this is also me just being a little bit psycho. Like, why don't I just ask someone for help? Like,
no,
if I want to
that's
do like that, but
that's what I'm saying. Like, it leads to the limitations lead to more creativity.
Yes, absolutely. And I think I feel very passionately about the creative process and like where we are politically, and keeping our creative problem solving muscle, like working that muscle, I think is so important in not just frivolous things like what I'm doing, but just in like imagining better systems and imagining a better future. And like, so absolutely, like we, in so many aspects of our life, we're going to be presented with limitations and figuring out like, okay, but how do I still execute the vision? And how do I, and I'm not saying we have to know how to do that alone, obviously, but yeah, I think that the limitations are really important to learn to work with. And like the friction they create is actually you learn a lot, you get better, you make discoveries you never thought of. Like, so yeah, absolutely.
Like, how long does it take for you to pick, like, okay, this could work as this could work as a soda gun, this could work as...
Oh, honestly, sometimes I'm just filming and I just like whatever's in my visual field.
I just think it's like we're coming into this era of AI, and I think it's a disservice, not just to the creators, but to the audience. Like, it's a disservice to the imagination of the audience and the ways in which, you know, one might think, oh, it would be cool to AI a stethoscope in here, or it would be cool to, you know, make this entirely on AI and I can just like I can make the video and upload it and it'll look like a real show or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I think it's when you're talking about the muscle, it's like such a disservice to the audience. And I don't know if the audience realizes yet how much they're going to be craving stuff and how much they appreciate the parts that are, oh, haha, the elevator is a shower. Mm-hmm. Or not even that, but just, you know, I see on Julian Sewell's stuff, the soap opera, people commenting saying, I don't even remember that this female character has a beard. Yeah. And that's fun. That's part of it. And like the way that he's made Paloma Diamond a full character.
It's incredible.
It's incredible. And my favorite thing is people in the comments responding as if she's real.
I've gotten comments on my videos of like Paloma Diamond should play, you know what I mean? Not Julian, Paloma Diamond.
And that's what I think is like what you would miss is that like community creativity aspect and the world that's built there that is like, first of all, kind of hard to explain at this point, but like a world that is built with these creators that I've become like fans of in a way that if sometimes it's jarring, like not to be like real, but like if someone else is in your video, I'm like, who the fuck is that? Or which I know is like such an audience reaction. Or like when Julian started using, I think she's his sister. I was like, I was okay. I'm on board because they made her up very 80s. So I was like, I'm okay, fine. But it is like, as an audience member, I have to like trust the new person.
Yes.
Like, I'm like, who are you?
No, it makes sense because you've built a relationship as a creator. Like I've earned your trust over like so many videos and so many years. And it's also like you follow someone and so you want to see them. But this is something I've run into too, is because as a creative, like you do want to collaborate eventually. But yeah, the audience is not used to it. They're like, what? Maybe
it takes them out of it because everyone is you. So they like that.
But then I also had a really fun thing where I did a video with my really good friend who I just did a short film with. And people were like, I didn't even notice that it was another person.
Oh, I saw that.
Which was really fun too, where I was like, oh, that's cool. Because it was just kind of like seamless, like because I played more than one character as well. So like that helped, I think. I think the audience, when they're following you for a long time and there's an accessible nature about your content where they can tell that you're being scrappy and using what you've got, they feel like they're in on it with you. And it's something, and like you said, like trying to explain Paloma Diamond, where it's like you feel like you're in on this cultural joke kind of with the audience, with the creator. And, you know, my audience is they're so generous and celebratory. And like, I'm like, I should be getting seriously bullied for what I'm doing on the internet, but I am not. And I don't know when that's coming or if it ever will. But I really don't take them for granted. Like, of course, you know, we have to be careful with this like parasocial stuff. Like, we're not friends. You don't know me, but like they're so kind and wonderful and just like cheering me on and like excited to see whatever nonsense I'm doing. And it's really quite amazing.
I know you signed with an agency or something. Was there like I'm so out of touch with the
That's
internet
okay.
creative. No, not just you, like the internet creative world. We are slightly two different generations of internet creator. There's like a little divide. We were encouraged in my era to scale up and to get signed by these agencies. And I don't know that it behooved us. And I think for a long time, people would say to me and Allison, you guys should have a TV show. And then it's like, we did. It was on YouTube for like 3 years. You can go back and there's full episodes. Is there kind of, what can you do for me if you sign with something? Like, I'm bringing more to you than you are to me. Or like, what's like the pitch, you know, for them, like to you?
Well, the one thing I did, which actually allowed me to go full time, which was in 2022, I think, or 2023. And I was working with this manager who honestly, Gabe, you really inspired me too, because we talked about like moving on from our team. You inspired me and I did. Like 2 of the 3 I moved on. Friendly, but it just like wasn't a fit, you know. But you were in my mind for that. So thank you. Because
what I love to do is separate people and end things with people. No, I really think sometimes they don't understand scrappiness. They don't appreciate scrappiness because in their minds, they're told to scale up, scale up, scale up.
Yeah. And that's, again, it's just like this kind of like, of course we want a return on investment for like all the creative energy and stuff that we're putting out into the world. You want it to be sustainable. But I also really try to push back against this mindset of like, and how does it bigger and like exponential growth? And like, how do we get the number? Like I meet with these like managers and I'm just like, that were like potential managers. And I just was like, what is this? Like, this is at what cost? Like this.
Exactly.
I'm not going to ever sell my creative joy and vision. And that doesn't mean that every second of every day I am like so blissful and in the zone. Like, of course not. The creative joy is what got me here. And so to like totally bypass that in the name of like numbers and like some bullshit metric, I won't do it. And they're trying to pitch you and it's like, where is your soul? I don't even, what is this? Like, it's so strange to me. But anyway, so I think that's been, and then sometimes that's a detriment because a lot of times I'm just like, whatever, like my creative impulses are leading me. And then like, I have no plan and no strategy and I'm like crazy and I need some structure and I need some routine. You know what I mean? So there's like, you have to really balance both of it. But to answer your question, like the one thing that I was presented with was this basically like a production company for a really big YouTube channel was like, I signed this deal with them to launch my content on YouTube and they would pay me in advance. And then any money my channel made would pay back that advance.
Okay.
And that allowed me to go full time. But I will say that the jump from short form to long form is, I wouldn't even call it a jump. It is like a changing dimensions. Like for someone who is playing all the characters, writing it, shooting it, editing it, like it was a tremendous amount of work. I barely even remember that like year of my life because I just was like, and ultimately, like, I don't know that I failed, but it was really hard to get people to come watch me on another platform. Also, as I was figuring out like how my stuff transfers into that medium, it was hard to maintain that workload and be consistent, which consistency is so important on YouTube, I feel. And then ultimately that deal fell apart where they didn't pay my second installment. They paid it like 4 months late. And then they just were like, hey, we actually are doing something else. So we're not going to pay the third payment. And like the whole thing fell apart.
Oh, it's good to hear that hasn't changed.
Yeah. Which I think you kind of made me feel better about it when we got together because you were like, I'm sorry I keep referencing that conversation, but whatever. We hung out. But you were like, that kind of shit happens all the time. You know what I mean? And I was like, okay. Because I think I was feeling, there was a part of me that was just like, wow, I was such a failure that I just didn't, I wasn't a good return on investment. But anyway.
But you have spent those years building stuff up and then they come in and get to tell you what to do. Fuck off. I just think it's like a non-level of trust with the creator, right? Which can feel very gaslighting, at least for me and what you're describing, which is like, okay, cool. Like what you're doing works, but like what if we did this? And what if there's no audience for it this way? And you're like, I'm looking at the audience. I see the audience. And then the push to be like, what, instead of being like, how can I be more successful on this platform? It's like, that's amazing. Let's move to another platform. And it's like, you're not understanding my expertise. Like you think you have an expertise. You don't. I have an expertise. And I don't want to be like layman. I sometimes call them civilians, which people don't like. But I'll be like, civilians think, oh, what if you just did this? And I'm like, one, do you think I haven't thought of that? And two, it's you think I haven't tried it? And three, like my thing is working. You think it looks easy.
Yeah.
My thing is working. I'm putting in the work to do it. You telling me like, oh, it would be so much cooler if it were on, not the audience saying if it were on Netflix, but like execs or managers saying if it was on Netflix. You're like, do you understand that to do that, I would have to completely abandon the audience that I've built on Reels. I would have to completely abandon the writing that I've been doing. Even like getting roles and stuff, yeah, but getting like the scale up to now you're in a writer's room. You've made it. Okay, but now I can't make these videos and I've lost this audience. And so like, what did I win exactly?
Yeah, exactly. With the YouTube thing, what was so hard about it is I couldn't just stop doing short form because I still wanted to invest in that audience and keep them engaged while I was like trying to put out this long form content. And then the workload was just too much. And that is part of it, is like, if people don't realize like introducing a new stream or platform is like, it's such a huge undertaking. I think too, what I see is, I think particularly in the case of this YouTube deal that I signed was like, they weren't telling me like what kind of content to do or any of that. They just were like, do what you're doing, but on YouTube. And I think that people come from this space of creators like doing podcasts on YouTube, and it's like you have your setup and it's a formula, there's a format, and you have your guest and you sit down and maybe there's a camera angle on the guest and a camera angle on you and a wide, and and I'm like, okay, but I'm doing a fantasy series where like I need to be in the mushroom woods, and then I'm doing like zombie apocalypse, like where am I going to shoot that? I have to do it on myself. Like they're kind of forgetting that my content isn't really naturally setting up this like repeatable format. I think that's what I feel is always missing when I have this conversation with these like managers or like whatever. And sometimes I get pushed like, well, you should just do a podcast. And I'm like, I don't want to do a podcast. Like if I feel the call, trust me, I will. But like, I'm not particularly interested in like, okay, and now here's my podcast. And like, I want to be the male lead in a fantasy series. So right. I'm going to do that.
Right. Right. I think it's so funny. It would almost, the trope you're describing. Do you know Bowman Reed? He goes by Bowmanizer.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God. So
one of my favorite things that he does is the two worst girls having a podcast. And it's like that, exactly that, like the angles, it's the weird outfits, it's the girls talking about kind of nothing. And I've posted it before being like, this is not JBU. That is such a trope, and it exists so heavily that it's like, why do that? Or like, why? Yeah. And also I feel like it's this thing that is a huge mistake too, especially because I'm like not an actor, nor do I have really any interest in that. It's like, okay, now we want to know about you. And it's like, I understand that impulse from people that want to make money, but it's a little bit insulting because just because I'm on the internet doesn't mean you have to know everything about me. I'm acting. Like, this is acting. This is what I want to do. Like, for example, I wrote a novel that I'm like still working on, but the agent that I ended up leaving, she was like, oh, I was reading this and I was thinking, what about this is like true to Gabe's life? And so I was like, what if you wrote a memoir about the things in the novel, but you were like what happened to you? And I was like, okay, I understand that. Like, I'm not an actor. I'm more of like a personality or whatever, or a writer, but you're not seeing the art that I'm doing. You're seeing me as a money sign myself. So to have you, not that you won't ever do a podcast, but to have you do a podcast, it's like you're missing what I want to do. And you're seeing me as online creator, in parentheses, derogatory.
Yes. Like, and again, seeing the money sign, just like, how can we scale? Because absolutely, like, I could wake up tomorrow and be like, it's a podcast, and, but if it's not coming from that place, like, it's not going to be enjoyable for me. It's probably going to fall flat to an audience. And that's where you get those kind of like soulless podcasts where they're just talking about nothing. I mean, I love JBU. And also, like, people, there's this, the chemistry between the two hosts is like also key. And your friendship with Allison is just, and people have been so invested in it for so long. And you two have, like, I don't know, you've been through a lot creatively. And I think that your story and your history makes your conversations, like, you have this context that makes it so just delightful to like be sitting there like with you guys on the couch, But yeah, it's again, that's that like constantly checking in with, it's that tension between the business side and the creative side that I think in a lot of ways, creativity in a capitalist model, like, creativity doesn't even like see a capitalist system. It's like, I don't know what that is. Like, what do you mean? But we're existing under that system. And so we have to monetize and scale and make sure it's sustainable. And like, you have to look at the numbers in some way. And so that constant friction is always there, but like checking in and being like, am I just doing this because some person is like, this is what it is? And it's like, you have no understanding of my audience or my kind of authentic, creative something that you can't not anyone can replicate, And yeah, like, I don't think that every creator needs to be like, and now this is me. Like, I don't know. Like,
it's funny when someone plays an asshole all the time, and then you always see the comments being like, bro, you need to show your real personality at some point because I'm freaking out.
Yes. I've also seen the really unfortunate creators that do similar things to style to me, who are much bigger than me, starting to go on podcasts now and be themselves, and people being like, oh, well, you're just like that character, or and it's really, I imagine, does not feel good, because the truth is that even the asshole characters that, like, there are always aspects of myself, like, in some regard, like whether it's a disowned part of self or a shadow part of self, like, and I do think there's something very sort of the characters that you're drawn to or that come from me, or like there's something very sort of spiritual about it in a way. And yeah, people have a hard time, I think, kind of reckoning that it can be both, that you can be very different from the characters that you're playing, but also it is an aspect of self at the same time. And to me, there's an element of protection of I'm always playing characters that I'm not sure I'd want to like totally abandon. And
I mean, it's interesting what you said earlier about the queerness and gender of it all, because it's funny to get. Was it from what caused that? Was it from all the positive attention for the male characters?
Well, it did feel a certain element of it felt a little taboo at first. I also want to like highlight that I'm a cisgender white woman doing it, and like obviously, not obviously, but like the world that we live in, people, I recognize that it's like can be hot and charming when I do it, whereas like obviously
Yeah, not always.
trans creators like face a whole different, I just want to recognize that it's not something, that's something that I absolutely see. But there was like within myself, feeling really kind of like this other side of myself lit up by that felt a little taboo, like within my own conditioning, or like, is this weird? Is it weird to have chemistry with myself? Like, and of course I'm not the only creator doing it. I'm not like out here, like I've reinvented the wheel. Like we've had men putting a dish towel on their head to be a female character for so long, like in the internet space. So
yeah.
And in some ways I saw someone break it down where it's just like a visual language where you're just communicating, like it's a symbol that says, and the audience is with you, but I do think that I have my own expression with it has taken it to a new level where it does feel like there's a part of me that's like, wow, what would a world look like where like I could just go out for those roles and it wouldn't be a conversation. It wouldn't be like the lines start to blur. Like it really helped me kind of compost the gender binary that was still like very locked into my own like perception of self, of like just lots of things. And yeah, at first it felt, and it's still to this day, like I remember when I did the first bartender video and I was like, ooh, is this too much? Like, is this the one where people are going to be like, hey dude, this is weird.
No.
I mean? I don't know. That conditioning is really, it's deep in there,
Interesting. It's like it's like gender dysphoria in a funny way.
Yes, there is an element of that, because then I go into my real life and I'm like, even with Cool Barista, I'm like, why can't I just be that? But it's in me. But then why do I get in front of people and I'm like, oh my God, hey, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It has really opened up a lot. Like there's a lot that it opens up in terms of like how I move through the world. And I'm like, oh, so yeah.
I mean, this is like a bad example because I ended up being trans. But when I did an acting class for a little while, I would always want to do like a gender swapped version of stuff because I liked that it was written in a way that would allow the male actor and myself to be different personalities. We did a scene from This Is Our Youth, but it was like me and another girl. And I was like the Mark Ruffalo character. And I was like, this is so great because I'm a maniac, but I'm a maniac in like a boy way. And so it's like cool. And like I was a lot of times, again, I ended up being trans, but a lot of times I would more so relate to, I'm relating to Keanu Reeves in this, or I'm relating to, but that's also, I would say 1/4 of that is transness. And the rest of it is like, as a writer, what's more interesting and what matches more to the people I know in my real life, the women I know in my real life, or the queer people I know in my real life who do have these different ideas of gender, areas of gender. Like, it's interesting. I was talking to Allison's husband about clothes because I was at the mall yesterday and I was like, John, men's clothes are ugly and disgusting. I was in the women's section and I was like, oh my God, this little like crop top with a cherry on it, love. And I was like, this is cool because I could never wear this stuff when I had boobs because it just didn't look right. But now it's like sort of giving Misha Barton. No shade. And so I was like, wow, it's like cute. Like, this is a woman's shirt, fits me the way I want it to fit. And I would go upstairs to the men's department and I'd be like, first of all, I was like, okay, the women's department, everything has like cherries and patterns. And it looks like maybe it's for a child. And then the men's section, it's a fancy mall. The men's section was like $300 shirts that were like South Carolina rodeo, or like hats with like Hulk Hogan. I was like, first of all, you're paying like $400 to cosplay as a blue collar man.
You're right.
That you are not. If you've never seen Hulk Hogan wrestle, you should not be wearing that shirt. My culture is not a costume. And then the men's section is just like, what if I went fly fishing? And you've never been fly fishing. And then like the women's, I was more drawn to the women's clothes in a way because they're more fun and more like gay. So like everything John was suggesting to me, I was like, more, get like more, give me give me more color, give me more like patterns and things like that. And so I think it's been a fun way to allow me to say, oh, this shirt, but in a boy way, or like this character, but in a girl way. Just kind of be able to like let go of that. And it's funny to be like, for you to be like, I put on a backwards hat and I'm a boy and everyone, and like that, but that's cool. That's like a power to then, it's very queer.
And I do look really good in a backwards hat for some bizarre reason. Like everyone does.
No, not everyone.
There's a backwards hat effect. I put that thing on and I'm like, let's go.
Hell yeah, brother. Well, it's also the minutia of men's, you really capture the minutia of like men's behavior and men's like movements. And that's something that I'm constantly trying to replicate. And it's very silly. Like you're talking about like, you know, oh, these are tropes. It's extremely silly to know that I pass if I go, what's up, brother?
Yeah.
That's stupid.
Yeah. It's really wild to see it on camera and be like, oh, well, if I just like do this hands in my pockets thing and like scrunch my shoulders a little, like suddenly I'm seeing boy. Like, yeah. And then like in real life, the fact that that also so holds weight in how we're socially labeling each other or cueing each other in is like wild.
Yeah. And I think it's like, even before you were like talking about yourself that much, I was like, if she doesn't know she's queer, she's about to find out.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, no, I'm bisexual. And then on the gender side, I'm just always like, we are on the journey. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know where because it's always
right. Who knows?
It feels like that.
For those of you listening, it's just Caroline just sort of did like a gesture to the world. And if you were just hiring guys to play those roles, it wouldn't be as it wouldn't come to these creative places. And that's why I think a lot of this stuff is based in queerness. And not to say that all the men playing women or all the, you know, the women playing men, et cetera, have that, but it is kind of a noticeable queer thing. Julian's gay, Nicholas Flannery's gay. Like, it's interesting.
It is. I think that, and I think that just goes to like, queerness is inherently like creative expression. It's that willingness and that courage to be like, I don't like that box is not enough. Like I am more expressive than that. And so I think that crossover is like, absolutely. And it seems like, I mean, there's no way to really know, but it seems like my audience is also like predominantly queer as well. Like just like the kind of comments I'm getting and, which I love. Because it's like, yeah, it is kind of speaking to something. And
that's what you would lose out on if you had been forced to go through the traditional model. Like, there's no way people would let there be that much expression for you, like, as you were saying, to go out for those roles, or for someone like Julian or Nicholas or, Mackenzie to play there wouldn't be going through the traditional Hollywood system. You guys would be forced into something and you would lose, I think, what would make you stand out, which is unfortunate.
It's its own business. And the way that I can kind of slot myself into that is very limiting. And I'm fine with like doing it when it comes around. Like I have a TV and film agent, I audition here and there, but it's a totally different. I just consider that like almost now a side job if it comes around, which is a blessing. Like it used to be the dream, until I really learned what it was. And also learned that like in a lot of ways, like I'm not hot enough to be a lead in Hollywood.
That's not true.
No, it's so true. Like you have to understand, like I think that I'm hot, but there's like Hollywood hot. And then I'm also not like kind of unique and weird enough to be like the really fun side characters either. And it's like in my content, I get to just do whatever. And that is very fulfilling to me. And so that then when I'm faced with the truth of like what I am castable as in Hollywood, it's less soul crushing maybe.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, I'm just like fitting into this business model, like whatever, but I'm not relying on that to like fulfill me creatively.
Yeah, it's what do I bring rather than what can I bring to you? It's what can I bring to an audience, or what can I, it's not like, please, 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 I'm begging, like, make me correct, make my hair red, I'm Rita Hayworth all of a sudden, like that kind of thing. There's no creativity in the thought process of what could be. And so it's like what you're describing. Yeah. I think that there was a disservice done to my generation of millennial creators of, now you have to get a talk show. Now you have to do this. Now you have to do that. That I hope. I mean, I want you all to make money, but I also love the idea that people are realizing this is the show. This is the show.
Yeah. And I also just think that you've been in this space for longer. And so you've just had that experience too of like, you've had to pivot and reinvent along the way. And it's like, you've had opportunities come, but then they don't work out or like whatever. And the landscape changes online, as we know. Like I think I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years now. And I'm always just kind of like, this could all dissolve tomorrow. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think you're a real testament to that. I think that you're so prolific. Like I look at you've got your JBU podcast, you have your Bad with Money podcast, you have your amazing Substack now, you're like writing a book. I'm like, whoa, I love it. And
yeah, but it's all, it's funny to be, I always used to say this, that like, people are like, wow, those 4 things worked out. And I'm like, that's so cool. There's 100 things that didn't.
Yes. Oh, right.
And do I think about them every day, all day and ruminate? Obviously.
Yeah.
Duh. No, it's not good. It's not healthy. I spent so long taking lunches with people who I was trying to impress and like, why? And being told there's no audience for queer stuff too. Being told there's no audience for queer stuff and then watching queer things blow up, and not in a TV way, in a internet show way.
Yeah.
An exec would never greenlight Paloma Diamond. Like they just would, like, they would be like, what? And that is like become iconic. It's a lack of imagination that I see being recreated by other people. So yeah, I just really love your stuff. The editing alone, like the writing and the editing, I feel like don't get enough credit.
Oh, thanks.
Like the editing is spot on. And like, what are you editing in?
Premiere Pro.
Okay. And you taught yourself that?
Yeah, I started in iMovie, and then
I've been editing JBU in iMovie for 11 years.
You can do so much in iMovie. Like there's no I
people find that insane. They're like, what do you mean you've been editing the channel in iMovie for 11 years? And I was like, that's right, baby. Why fix it if it ain't broke?
No, 100%. And I was pushed to make the jump when I signed that YouTube deal.
Yeah.
Really glad I did, because I wanted to do other things editing wise, but it's really hard to make the jump when you are so like, it's like muscle memory in an editing software. I totally get that, because you're just like, I could do this with my eyes closed, you know? So yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I feel like there are people listening that are like, you've been editing in iMovie for 11 years. Yes, I have. iMovie sponsor me. Yeah. I don't even know if that's a thing. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
I just love your work. I love all the different storylines and the thought that goes into this person is this person's brother. This person is this person's, ex. Like the way that it's
lore.
The lore. The way that like the lore has been built up. The lore that people like the headcanons people have about it. It just is like very cool, and I feel very protective of all of you in a way that I'm like,
aww,
don't like, I feel like I'm like old man yells at cloud. Like I'm like, don't let them kill your shine. Don't let the bastards get you down.
Well, same to you, Gabe. I mean, like, honestly. Also, I feel like how we connected was you tagged me in a different podcast. You were like something about cool barista.
Yeah, I talked about you on JBU. That's sort of my thing is if I want to be friends with someone or flirt with someone. I'm like, you gotta, like, this is who I'm interested in right now. And I just talk about it on JBU. And I'm like, maybe they'll see it or hear it. That's the goal.
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah. My ex used to get so upset because he'd be like, oh, I'm following this comedian and I'm obsessed with them and I love them so much. And like, I've been a fan of their work. He'll like show me one thing of theirs. I'll be like, oh, that's really funny. I'll follow them. And they immediately follow me back. And he's like, fuck you. Are you fucking kidding me?
It's powerful.
And I'm like, we're peers.
It's the blue checkmark peers. It's
right?
just like, people are just like, oh,
exactly.
you get it.
Yeah. Where can people find you and all your stuff and follow you?
I'm on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube with my name, Caroline Klidonas, which I don't know, I guess will be in the title for the spelling.
Sure. Don't be intimidated by the lore. Just get in there.
Just get in there.
And start with maybe hot bartender, because that'll really just watch it once and then watch it again with the props, like just focusing on the props. It's incredible.
Okay, there you go. I love that. You're giving a place to start.
Yeah, exactly.
Bad with Money with Gabriel S. Dunn is a production of Noted Bisexual, produced by Melisa D. Monts and Diamond MPrint Productions. Edited by Diane Kang, post-production sound by Coco Llorens, production assistance by Melanie D. Watson, and music by Mike Kaplan, Zach Sherwin, and Jack Dolgen, sung by Sam Barbera. Thank you, love you, bye!